The movie opens with a handsome guy named Hugo. He is in court because he beat up another man, and he is sitting there with his dad and his older brother backing him up. Before long, Hugo walks out of the courthouse still a free man. His family has the money and influence to keep him out of serious trouble, and that tells you a lot about the kind of life he comes from. He might be privileged, but he is also reckless. As he leaves, Hugo runs into a young woman named Bobby. He immediately starts flirting like it is a game, but Bobby is not impressed at all. From the very first moment, she makes it clear she does not like being messed with. After that, life goes on for Bobby. She heads to school like normal, and we meet her best friend, Katina. The two are inseparable, the kind of close friends who get into trouble together, even getting punished when Bobby is caught helping Katina cheat. That night, Hugo is back with his crew doing what he always does, showing off. He turns everything into a competition, even something as simple as a pull-up contest, and of course, he has to prove he is the best. Not long after, Hugo and his friends hear about a private party happening nearby, so they rush over. And sure enough, Bobby is there too, arriving with her sister. At the party, Bobby is spending time with a guy named Chino, and Chino is clearly trying to get close to her. But the mood shifts fast when Hugo and his group show up and start causing chaos. While the party is getting messy, Hugo's close friend Polo sneaks into a room and starts stealing money from people's wallets. Katina also shows up to the party and catches him in the act. The wallet he is taking belongs to her. At first, Katina is not even that upset about the money, since it is coming from someone she knows. The problem is, Polo does not stop there. He mocks her, pushes her buttons, and leaves her angry and humiliated. Meanwhile, Hugo runs into Bobby again. He has been interested in her since their first meeting, so he goes right back to flirting, trying to get a reaction. Bobby finally snaps. She splashes him in the face, and Hugo responds by tossing her into the pool. Then, like he is still trying to stay in control of the moment, he lifts her up and throws her in again, turning it into a power move instead of backing off. But the fun does not last. The owner of the party calls the police, and Hugo's group has no choice but to take off. After everything that happens, Bobby ends up leaving with Chino. And in that moment, everything begins to change. This is 3 steps above heaven. On the way home, Chino tries to act caring and supportive, hoping it will win Bobby over. But things take a dark turn fast. Hugo and his friends start following their car, and they do not just intimidate them. They actually damage the vehicle. Then Chino finally snaps and rams his car into one of them, knocking the guy down. Seeing his friend fall, Hugo immediately chases after them. He grabs Chino and demands an apology, but Chino refuses and keeps acting stubborn. Panicking, Bobby tries to get help from a man who happens to pass by. But instead of stopping the fight, the man ends up getting hit by Hugo and quickly runs away in fear. Hugo keeps going, still teaching Chino a lesson, until Bobby no longer knows what to do. Out of desperation, she jumps in and pulls Hugo away. Chino turns out to be a coward. The moment he sees an opening, he runs off and leaves Bobby behind. Hugo laughs as he watches the coward run away and abandon her. Since it is already late, Bobby asks Hugo to take her home. At first, Hugo pretends he does not want to. When Bobby tries to stop a random car for help, the driver looks suspicious and Hugo immediately scares him off. In the end, Hugo gives in and takes Bobby home himself. When they arrive, Bobby's mother scolds her after seeing her come home with a guy who looks like trouble. She orders Bobby to go inside immediately. The next morning, Hugo is woken up by his friend Polo. He asks Hugo to come with him to meet a woman, who turns out to be Katina. Polo has managed to win her over, and they are planning to go on a date. By coincidence, Bobby runs into Hugo again. Still annoyed, she walks away right away. Even so, Hugo keeps teasing her, which only makes her more irritated and secretly flustered at the same time. Later that day, after school, Bobby's mother asks about the man who brought her home the night before. There has been a report about a man assaulting someone, and her mother wants answers. At first, Bobby refuses to say his name, but after being pressured, she finally admits that it was Hugo. That night, Hugo is invited by his father to have dinner. When he arrives, only his father is there. This is when his past finally comes to light. Through a flashback, we learn that Hugo used to be a kind and high-achieving student. His parents loved him deeply until everything changed. One day, Hugo caught his mother cheating with another man inside their own home. Unable to control his anger, he brutally beat the man. That incident was the real reason behind the court case at the beginning of the story. The man he attacked was his mother's lover. Even so, Hugo never exposed his mother's affair to anyone, not even to his father or his brother. He chose to carry that pain alone to protect his family. From that moment on, Hugo changed completely. He became reckless, angry, and careless about his own life. Eventually, he decided to leave his parents' house and live with his older brother Alex. One night, Bobby receives a call from Katina's mother. She asks if Katina is with her. Without thinking too much, Bobby says yes and tells her not to worry, even though she knows Katina is actually out with her boyfriend. The moment the call ends, Bobby panics. She has no idea where Katina really is. Soon, she finds out that Katina went to watch an illegal street race with her new boyfriend. Worried something might happen, Bobby rushes there on her own. She finally finds Katina and tells her that her mother is looking for her, asking her to go home after the race ends. Not long after that, Hugo spots Bobby in the crowd and walks over to her. Bobby immediately shows her cold expression and tells him that she already reported what he did the night before, and that he will face legal consequences for hurting someone. Polo gets annoyed after hearing that his friend is being labeled a snitch, but Hugo calmly tells him to relax. He confidently says that Bobby will not tell the truth in court anyway. As the race is about to start, Hugo offers Bobby a spot as his riding partner. She immediately refuses. Instead of forcing her, Hugo brings another woman named Rafaela. This instantly sparks jealousy in Bobby. Rafaela makes it worse by mocking her and calling her a coward for being too scared to race. That comment hits hard, and Bobby snaps. She decides to join the race just to prove she is not afraid. Wanting to compete directly with Hugo, Bobby rides with Marcel, who happens to be Hugo's rival on the track. The race begins, and the rules are intense. The female riders must face backward and strap themselves tightly to their drivers. As the race goes on, fear shows clearly on Baby's face, especially since this is her first time. After a few laps, Hugo and Marcel are leading the race. Suddenly, Baby notices another racer fall. Being kind-hearted, she urges Marcel to stop and help. But before anything else can happen, the police suddenly raid the race. Chaos breaks out as everyone tries to escape. In the confusion, Bobby is left behind. Just as she is about to be caught, Hugo steps in and rescues her. He gets her away from the scene, even though the police manage to snap photos of them together. Hugo takes Bobby to a quiet area and tells her to hide under a bridge while he distracts the police. When he comes back, he is shocked to find her covered in cow dung. She had jumped down without realizing where she would land. Hugo lends her his jacket and tells her to throw away her dirty clothes. He cannot help but laugh at her innocence, and in that moment, he starts to fall for her. Not long after, Hugo takes Bobby home. It becomes clear that Bobby is starting to like him too. When Hugo leans in as if he is about to kiss her, Bobby closes her eyes and leans forward. Instead of kissing her, Hugo laughs at her reaction. Embarrassed and annoyed, Bobby slaps him and storms into the house. Later that night, Hugo meets up with Rafaela. She secretly has feelings for him and becomes his lover, unaware that Hugo is only using her. That night, the two of them end up getting close, while Hugo continues to hide his true feelings for Baby. The next morning, Hugo secretly sneaks into Baby's room with Polo. He quietly sticks a photo onto her ceiling, then the two of them leave. Not long after, Bobby, who has been thinking about Hugo since the night before, looks up and notices the picture. It is a photo of the two of them from the illegal race that made the news. Seeing it instantly makes her heart flutter. That night, Bobby decides to go to the club to find Hugo. When she arrives, Rafaela clearly looks jealous, noticing that Hugo's attention is now fully on Bobby. Even so, Hugo does not seem to care much about Rafaela anymore. From above, he watches Bobby enjoying the music, completely drawn to her innocence and natural charm. Hugo then joins her on the dance floor, and they spend the night dancing together under the loud music. Without realizing it, Rafaela grows angrier as she watches them. After the party ends, Bobby goes home. As soon as she arrives, her mother scolds her, especially after finding out she went out drinking and is now getting close to a rebellious guy whose name has already appeared in the news. Bobby does not really listen and goes straight to her room. Her mother then asks her husband to confront Hugo and tell him to stay away from their daughter. She does not want a troublemaker influencing her child. While in her room, Bobby gets a call from Hugo. She tells him about being scolded, and Hugo listens with concern. Feeling emotional and overwhelmed, Bobby asks Hugo to pick her up the next morning so they can go out together before school. The next day, Hugo does exactly that. He picks her up, and they leave together. Unknowingly, one of Bobby's teachers sees her leaving with him. Hugo spends the day walking around with Bobby, enjoying every moment together. But suddenly his expression changes when he sees his mother with her lover again. Rage builds inside him, and he speeds his motorcycle right in front of them. He loses control of his emotions, frightening Bobby in the process. Eventually, Hugo stops and releases his anger by kicking and smashing nearby trash bins. Baby gently calms him down, and little by little he begins to settle. They then head to the beach, where Hugo finally opens up about his past. He admits that the man they saw earlier was his mother's lover, and that he has kept this painful secret to himself all this time. Bobby feels deeply touched, realizing she is the only one he has ever opened up to. They spend the rest of the day together, growing closer. Bobby shares her dream of one day having a house by the beach, a dream she has carried since childhood. As Hugo listens, it becomes clear that an idea is forming in his mind. Not long after, Bobby returns home. A short time later, her mother introduces her to a man named Gustavo. It is obvious what her mother is trying to do, hoping Bobby will choose someone more stable and responsible instead of Hugo. Bobby shows little interest and barely reacts to the introduction. That night, she ends up spending time with Hugo again. She has started to drift deeper into his world and stay out late with him. Rafaela grows uncomfortable seeing Bobby around, and she openly claims that she had been close to Hugo long before Bobby ever showed up. Her words are meant to provoke, and they work. Bobby loses her temper, and the tension between the two girls turns into a physical fight. Hugo quickly steps in, pulls Bobby away, and calms her down. He thanks her for standing up for him and feels proud that someone would defend him so fiercely. When they arrive at Bobby's house, her father is already waiting. He wants to talk to Hugo. The two sit together, and Hugo speaks honestly about his feelings. He explains that being with Baby has changed him and helped him become calmer and more grounded. He admits that he used to be hot-tempered, but being with her has slowly made him a better person. Hearing this, her father begins to understand and accepts what Hugo is trying to say. The next day, Bobby gets into trouble again. Her teacher reports that she skipped school, and her mother becomes furious. As punishment, Bobby is forbidden from going out for a while. She breaks down in tears and calls Hugo. Knowing she is not allowed to leave the house, Hugo sneaks to her window that night and convinces her to come with him for a short escape from everything weighing on her. He takes her to a swimming pool where Katina and Paulo are already waiting. For a moment, Bobby forgets all her problems and enjoys being with the people she cares about. The next day, after hearing that Bobby might receive a bad grade, Hugo secretly confronts her teacher. Without Bobby knowing, he threatens the teacher to make sure she does not fail. He even goes as far as putting the teacher's beloved pet in danger to force her cooperation. Later, Bobby talks with her father again. He sees how sad she has been and decides to let her go out with Hugo, choosing to handle her mother himself. Baby is overjoyed, and her father feels happy seeing his daughter smile again. Hugo earns more of her father's trust and decides to take Bobby somewhere special. He asks her to cover her eyes and leads her to a house near the beach. It turns out to be the very place Bobby once dreamed of owning someday. Hugo breaks in just to show her, and the moment overwhelms her completely. Bobby feels truly special, realizing how much effort Hugo is willing to make for her. Her feelings deepen, and she falls completely in love with him, believing in the future they might share together. The next day, Bobby invites Hugo and Paulo over to her house. Her parents are not home, so it feels like the perfect chance for her and Hugo to spend time together again. Unfortunately, Paulo makes a bad decision and invites other friends to come over as well. Bobby gets extremely upset. She feels disrespected and ignored, especially since no one asked for her permission. Angry and hurt, she kicks everyone out, including Hugo. Hugo feels completely lost after that. Wanting to make things right, he plans a surprise dinner and cooks everything himself, with help from Katina and Polo. He waits for Bobby, hoping she will come, but she never shows up. Later, Polo manages to reach Bobby and finds out she is busy searching for her mother's missing ring. The ring disappeared after their friends visited the house earlier. Hearing this, Hugo becomes furious. He immediately suspects Marcel and confronts him without hesitation, demanding the ring back. But he was wrong. It turns out Rafaela was the one who took it. Hugo retrieves the ring and returns it to Bobby. Seeing Hugo injured, Baby treats his wounds, and that night, she finally forgives him. The next day arrives, and it is time for Hugo's court hearing over the assault case. Just as he promised, Baby stands up for him and defends him in court. Her support helps save him from serious consequences. Her mother is furious that she defended him, but Bobby no longer cares. All that matters to her is Hugo. After that, Bobby no longer hides their relationship. Not long later, her final grades are released, and she scores incredibly well. She passes with excellent results, making everyone proud. Afterward, Hugo and Paulo return the teacher's dog, making things right. The next day, Bobby plans to bring a gift to her teacher to say thank you. That is when she finds out the truth. Her good grades came from Hugo threatening the teacher. Furious and hurt, Baby confronts him and asks for some space. Time passes and both of them struggle with the distance. Eventually, Baby celebrates her birthday and graduation with a small party at her house. After being apart for a while, Hugo finally decides to show up, looking completely different, dressed neatly and confidently. Seeing him again softens Bobby's heart. They reconnect and share a dance together. Then Gustavo arrives and accidentally spills a drink on Bobby. She does not make a big deal out of it, but seeing Gustavo act overly caring makes Hugo lose control. In a sudden burst of anger, Hugo lashes out and attacks him. Meanwhile, Bobby's younger sibling receives shocking news that Polo and Katina were involved in a crash during an illegal street race that same night. Everything else instantly fades away. Bobby and Hugo rush to the scene without hesitation. It turns out Polo and Katina were racing for money when the accident happened. Polo did not survive the crash. When Hugo and Bobby arrive, they see Katina badly injured, and the reality of what happened hits them hard. Hugo is completely shaken when he realizes that his closest friend is gone. They break down in grief as they look at Polo's lifeless body. Overwhelmed by emotion, Bobby explodes in anger. She blames Hugo for everything, accusing him of never caring about anyone and saying that his reckless life is what caused Polo's death. Hugo cannot handle the pain of her words. In a moment of emotional collapse, he loses control and strikes Bobby. That moment changes everything. Bobby can no longer forgive him and walks away, leaving him behind. Hugo is left drowning in guilt, grief, and regret. In a single moment, he loses both his best friend and the woman he loves. Bobby decides she can no longer be with Hugo. She chooses to move on and begins a new relationship with Gustavo. Even though her feelings for Hugo have not fully disappeared, she knows she can no longer forgive what happened. In the final moments of the story, Hugo finally makes peace with himself. He chooses to leave the city and start a new life elsewhere. He wants to leave behind his past mistakes and painful memories, including his love story with Bobby, the woman who once meant everything to him. So the moral of the story is that love built on pain and chaos will eventually break hearts, and sometimes you realize what truly matters only after you have already lost it.